The place you came from, they're all things.
I don't pay any attention to her. Our blood types are antagonistic. See you at 7, baby.
7, baby. You'll be seeing your 3 kids.
Who asked you?
Hollywood has always been glamorous, with stunning stars and bright lights. But even in the golden age of film, there were some stars who did terrible things.
Blow, will you? I ain't answering no more dopey questions.
You're Max Appleby.
Now listen, shyster, I ain't talking.
Where's the Bible you took from the Hotel Carlson 2 weeks ago?
These celebrities used their fame for bad deeds, leaving behind stories that studios would rather keep hidden. Today, we're taking a closer look at 15 of these dark Hollywood figures, revealing their secrets, scandals, and twisted tales that have been buried for far too long.
What do you mean $2? It's supposed to be $1.
I haven't got time to argue. This is a big fight. Get out of line.
Starting with Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle was once one of the biggest stars in silent film comedy. Born in 1887, he gained fame for his slapstick humor and unique screen presence. People loved his funny facial expressions and energetic stunts, making him a household name. By the early 1920s, he was earning huge paychecks and was even considered the highest-paid actor in America. This success showed how popular he was with movie fans everywhere. However, Arbuckle's life took a terrible turn in 1921. He hosted a party at the St. Francis Hotel, which was meant to be a fun getaway. Instead, it ended in tragedy when actress Virginia Rappe became very ill and later died. Arbuckle was accused of causing her death and faced serious charges, including manslaughter. The public was horrified by the story, and newspapers called him a monster. Although he claimed he was innocent, many people believed the worst about him. Speaking of which, his first trial gained enormous media attention. Witnesses gave conflicting accounts, and some admitted they were drunk during the party. Still, the damage to Arbuckle's reputation was done. His movies were removed from theaters, and his career seemed doomed. He was put on trial 3 times, yet each time the evidence was unclear. Finally, he was found not guilty. The jury even wrote a statement saying he was completely innocent, but the damage was permanent. Following the trials, Arbuckle struggled to find work under his real name. He tried directing under a different name, hoping to rebuild his career. Sadly, he never regained the success he once knew. In 1933, at just 46 years old, he died from heart failure, days after signing a new film contract. Some say he felt hope that he would return to the spotlight. But for many, his legacy is wrapped in that scandal. Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock was one of the most famous film directors in history. He earned worldwide praise for movies like Psycho, Vertigo, and North by Northwest. His style, often called the master of suspense, changed how people saw thrillers. Fans loved his clever camera work and daring storytelling, which brought huge success during his long career. But behind this public image, disturbing stories emerged about how he treated certain women on set. One of the most notable claims came from actress Tippi Hedren, who starred in The Birds. She described how Hitchcock pushed her into dangerous stunts and made her endure terrifying conditions while filming intense bird attack scenes. Her injuries and fear were reportedly ignored. Hedren also spoke of his uncomfortable demands, suggesting he made unwelcome advances and grew angry when she resisted. These accusations point to a pattern of control. Hitchcock was said to dislike any challenge to his authority, and he could become vengeful if he felt rejected. Hedren claimed she suffered emotional stress because of his actions and believed he held her career hostage. Many people who admired his movies found these revelations shocking, and they questioned whether his genius excused such behavior. Over the years, Hitchcock's legacy stayed strong among film lovers, but these accounts still trouble his reputation. Some critics argue that his approach reflected an older Hollywood system where power went unchecked and people were afraid to speak out. Others feel that no level of creative talent should erase unacceptable conduct, especially when it causes real harm. While his films remain classics, they also open a discussion about how filmmakers treat their cast. Even brilliant minds can hide darker sides, and Hitchcock's treatment of actresses reveals a different kind of horror behind the scenes. Paul Kelly. Paul Kelly was a well-known actor from the 1910s through the 1950s. With over 400 roles across stage, silent films, and early sound films, he became a respected figure in Hollywood. However, behind the scenes, Kelly's life was marred by a scandal that shocked the industry and the public alike. In 1927, Kelly's relationship with actress Dorothy Mackay took a tragic turn. At the time, Mackay was married to actor Ray Raymond, and the two were embroiled in a love triangle. One night, a drunken Kelly confronted Raymond in a heated argument over his affair with Mackay. The fight turned violent, and Kelly, who was much larger than Raymond, beat him severely. Raymond died shortly after from his injuries, and Kelly was charged with manslaughter. The trial was a media sensation. Mackay denied any romantic involvement with Kelly, but his love letters to her were presented in court proving their affair. Mackay was also charged with conspiracy for trying to cover up the fight and withholding information. She served less than a year in prison, while Kelly was sentenced to up to 10 years. However, he only served 25 months in San Quentin State Prison. After his release, Kelly's career remarkably bounced back. He wasn't allowed to marry for 18 months due to parole conditions, but once the restriction ended, he wed Mackay in 1931. The couple continued their careers together, performing on Broadway before moving back to Hollywood. Their relationship was short-lived, as Mackay tragically died in 1940 from complications following a car accident. Kelly's ability to return to acting after such a scandal revealed a dark side of how Hollywood often turned a blind eye to its stars' dark pasts. He went on to win a Tony Award in 1948 and appeared in numerous films, including Duffy of San Quentin, ironically portraying a prison warden. Kelly died of a heart attack in 1956 at the age of 57. John Wayne. Known as the Duke, John Wayne was the face of American westerns for decades. His rugged charm, deep voice, and no-nonsense attitude made him a household name. Wayne starred in over 140 movies, including classics like The Searchers and True Grit. To many, he was a symbol of American patriotism and bravery. But behind the iconic cowboy image was a man whose personal beliefs stirred controversy then, and even more so now. In a 1971 interview with Playboy, Wayne revealed views that shocked many of his fans. When asked about race, he openly stated, "I believe in white supremacy." He also said Black Americans weren't ready for leadership roles and dismissed the atrocities of slavery as just a fact of life. These statements weren't the careless remarks of a misunderstood man. They were part of a broader perspective Wayne held about race and history. Wayne's comments didn't stop there. He criticized indigenous Americans, claiming they were selfishly trying to keep land from white settlers. This attitude, which ignored the suffering and displacement of indigenous communities, reflected a troubling indifference to the history that shaped the country Wayne so proudly represented in his films. His intolerance also extended to LGBTQ+ communities. Wayne described certain films like Easy Rider and Midnight Cowboy as perverted because they depicted relationships he didn't agree with. He expressed disdain for anything outside of traditional male-female partnerships, using slurs that revealed deep-seated homophobia. Speaking of which, Wayne's hardline political views were equally divisive. He was a staunch supporter of the House Un-American Activities Committee, which targeted Hollywood professionals accused of having communist ties. His actions and words placed him firmly against progressive movements, alienating many in the entertainment industry. While his movies are still celebrated, his darker side continues to spark debate. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is a name everyone associates with laughter. His iconic character, the Tramp, made millions of people smile during the silent film era and beyond. He wasn't just a comedian, he was a filmmaker, writer, and composer. His movies like Modern Times and The Great Dictator are still considered masterpieces. But while his on-screen persona seemed kind and playful, the real Chaplin had a far darker side. One of the biggest controversies of Chaplin's life was his relationships with women, specifically very young women. His first wife was just 16 years old when they married, and he was 29. That might have been shocking enough, but his second wife was also 16. To avoid legal trouble, he had to marry her in Mexico. These relationships raised eyebrows, especially because of the clear power imbalance. Chaplin was a wealthy and powerful man, while his young wives were barely adults. Chaplin's third wife was older, at least compared to his earlier marriages. She was 20 when he was 47, but his pattern of marrying young continued with his fourth wife, who was only 18 when they tied the knot. This pattern of behavior made many people uncomfortable, and critics have called him manipulative and controlling in his personal life. But apart from all that, Chaplin was also involved in messy paternity lawsuits, with women accusing him of fathering their children. At the same time, he was under heavy surveillance by the FBI for alleged ties to communism. This further tarnished his reputation in America. Despite his genius in filmmaking, Chaplin's personal life remains a troubling chapter. His relationships with young women, controlling behavior, and legal issues paint a picture of a man far different from the cheerful tramp we saw on screen. Spade Cooley. Spade Cooley was a big name in the 1940s and 1950s. Known as the King of Western Swing, he was one of the most popular musicians of his time. Cooley's catchy tunes like "Shame on You" had fans dancing all over the country. He wasn't just a musician, he also starred in Western movies and hosted a hit TV show. People loved his lively fiddle playing and charismatic stage presence. But behind the fame, there was a dark and violent side to Cooley that shocked the world. By the late 1950s, Cooley's life began to spiral. He struggled with alcoholism and prescription pills, which made his behavior unpredictable. His marriage to his second wife, Ella Mae Evans, was falling apart. Cooley became obsessed with jealousy, accusing her of having affairs. In 1961, after filing for divorce, things took a dark turn. On April 3, 1961, Cooley brutally killed Ella Mae in their home. The details were horrifying. He beat her to death and even burned her with a cigarette to ensure she was dead. And did you know that the murder happened in front of their teenage daughter, Melody, who later testified against him in court? This shocking testimony became the centerpiece of a sensational trial. Cooley was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. Despite the severity of his crime, he was considered a model prisoner and granted parole after serving just 8 years. In a strange twist, Cooley was allowed to perform at a charity concert while on a temporary furlough in 1969. He received a standing ovation after the show, but backstage he suffered a massive heart attack and died. Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby was one of the most famous entertainers of the 20th century. Known for his smooth voice and timeless classics like White Christmas, he became a beloved figure in American homes. His easygoing personality on screen made him seem like the perfect family man. But behind the cheerful image, there were troubling allegations about Bing Crosby's private life that shocked the world. Crosby's private life was far from the wholesome picture his fans imagined. His son, Gary Crosby, wrote a memoir accusing his father of being abusive. Gary claimed Bing regularly beat him with a leather strap and called him cruel names like and Gary said the punishments were often severe, leaving him emotionally and physically scarred. Bing's daughter Mary also spoke out, revealing her father once threatened to disown her for living with a man before marriage. These allegations painted a very different picture of the man who sang sweet melodies to the world. But the controversies didn't stop at his family life. Crosby had a well-known love for gambling and spent countless nights at casinos, sometimes with shady figures. FBI documents later revealed his connections to mobsters, including Mo Dalitz, a known criminal. He even went hunting with some of them, raising questions about how deep these ties went. Speaking of which, Crosby's temper also got him into trouble. One story involves an all-night gambling spree in Nevada, where an argument led to a violent encounter. A witness claimed Crosby's associates handcuffed him, put him in a car, and beat him up. These incidents showed a far less gentle side to the singer. Despite these scandals, Crosby's career continued to flourish. He became one of the richest entertainers in the world, earning millions from his movies and music. But his personal life remained a mystery. He passed away in 1977 from a heart attack at the age of 74. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the golden boy of Hollywood's golden age. With his chiseled looks and daring performances, he became the face of swashbuckling adventure films like The Adventures of Robin Hood and Captain Blood. Flynn's charm and charisma made him one of the most beloved stars of the 1930s and 1940s. Fans saw him as a larger-than-life hero, but behind the scenes, his personal life was full of shocking controversies. Flynn was notorious for his wild lifestyle. He loved parties, alcohol, and adventure. Women were drawn to his confidence, and Flynn was more than happy to live up to his reputation as a ladies' man. The phrase "in like Flynn" became a popular way to describe his ease with seduction. Flynn himself wanted to use it as the title for his memoir. but the publishers went with My Wicked, Wicked Ways, which perfectly captured the chaos of his life. One of the darkest moments in Flynn's career came in 1943 when he was accused of statutory rape by two underage girls. The trial was a media sensation, with the public divided over whether Flynn was a predator or the victim of lies. He was ultimately acquitted, but the trial left a permanent stain on his reputation. Many saw him as reckless, using his fame and charm in ways that crossed serious moral boundaries. Flynn's private estate on Mulholland Drive became infamous for its rumored hidden cameras and two-way mirrors. Guests claimed Flynn used these to spy on their most private moments during his legendary house parties. While some dismissed these stories as Hollywood gossip, others swore they were true. Rock star Ronnie Wood later toured the house and confirmed the presence of secret mirrors, adding fuel to the rumors. Even as Flynn aged, his hedonistic lifestyle didn't slow down. He continued his heavy drinking and womanizing, which took a toll on his health. By the 1950s, his career was in decline, and his financial troubles piled up. Flynn passed away in 1959 at the age of 50. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was one of the most glamorous stars of Hollywood's golden age. Known for her striking looks and powerful performances, she shone in movies like Mildred Pierce and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. But her rise to fame wasn't easy. Crawford grew up in poverty and worked hard to make it in Hollywood. Her determination and ambition earned her a spot among the biggest stars of her time. But while she dazzled on screen, Crawford's personal life told a much darker story. She was known for being fiercely competitive and sometimes difficult to work with. Her feud with fellow actress Bette Davis became legendary, with both women battling for roles, awards, and even the spotlight. Behind the scenes, Crawford's need for control extended to her family life, and this is where her reputation took its darkest turn. After her death in 1977, Crawford's adoptive daughter, Christina, shocked the world by releasing the book Mommy Dearest. The memoir painted Crawford as a cruel and abusive mother. Christina claimed that Crawford had unpredictable temper tantrums fueled by alcohol and often punished her children harshly. In one of the most infamous accusations, Christina described an incident where Crawford exploded with rage over a wire hanger, a story that became a symbol of the alleged abuse. While some of Crawford's fans and close friends defended her, many others believed Christina's account. The book sparked debates about Crawford's true nature, with some saying she was a victim of Hollywood pressure and others labeling her a cold, tyrannical parent. Bette Davis. Bette Davis was one of the brightest stars of Hollywood's golden age. Known for her sharp tongue and intense performances, she made a name for herself in films like All About Eve and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Davis wasn't just talented, she was determined to succeed in a male-dominated industry. Her fierce personality helped her stand out, but it also led to plenty of conflict. Davis earned a reputation for being difficult to work with. She fought with studio executives, demanded better roles, and clashed with co-stars. One of her most famous feuds was with Joan Crawford. Their rivalry reached its peak while filming Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. On set, the tension was palpable and the two reportedly went out of their way to make each other miserable. This feud only added to Davis's image as a tough, no-nonsense actress, but her toughest battles weren't on the set. They were in her personal life. Later in life, her daughter, B.D. Hyman, shocked the world by accusing Davis of being manipulative and abusive. In her memoir, My Mother's Keeper, Hyman claimed Davis was an alcoholic who staged fake suicide attempts to punish her children. She also described Davis as emotionally cold, saying the actress prioritized her career over her family. Hyman's allegations didn't stop there. She accused Davis of practicing black magic, claiming her mother cast curses on people she disliked. Hyman claimed that Davis engaged in unusual rituals, including burning clothing or gutting fish, while muttering the names of people she disliked. These claims were shocking, but many dismissed them as exaggerated or fueled by bitterness. Despite these controversies, Davis remained a Hollywood icon. Her former assistant, Catherine Cermak, defended her, describing Davis as strong-willed but generous. Cermak even inherited part of Davis's fortune after her death, which only deepened the rift between Davis and Hyman's legacies. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was one of the most beloved entertainers of all time. With his smooth voice and iconic hits like My Way and New York, New York, he became a household name. He wasn't just a singer. He also made a big impact in Hollywood with memorable performances in films like From Here to Eternity. Sinatra's charm and talent made him an icon of the 20th century. But behind the scenes, his life was full of controversy, scandal, and darker secrets. Sinatra was known for his fiery temper. He lashed out at reporters, colleagues, and even fans if they crossed him. His outbursts made him a figure people admired, but also feared. However, it wasn't just his temper that sparked controversy. Sinatra had a long history of alleged ties to the mafia. The FBI kept a close watch on him for decades, building a file of over 1,200 pages. They believed he had friendships with mobsters, including Chicago crime boss Sam Giancana. Sinatra was even rumored to have helped Giancana influence votes for John F. Kennedy during the 1960 presidential campaign. The FBI also documented Sinatra's connections to other criminals. He received gifts from Joseph and Charles Fischetti, cousins of Al Capone, and attended the wedding of a Philadelphia mob boss's daughter. Despite all these suspicions, no concrete evidence ever tied Sinatra directly to organized crime. In 1938, Sinatra faced his first brush with the law when he was arrested for being involved with a married woman. Later, during World War II, he was criticized for not serving in the military. While some thought he faked his medical exemption, it was actually due to injuries from his birth that left him with permanent damage to his ears. George Raft. George Raft was one of Hollywood's original tough guys. Known for his roles in classic gangster films like Scarface, 1932, and Some Like It Hot, 1959, he became famous for playing criminals with a smooth and menacing edge. But for Raft, the line between fiction and reality was often blurred. His real-life ties to the underworld gave him a reputation that was as infamous as the characters he portrayed on screen. Before becoming a movie star, Raft grew up in New York's Hell's Kitchen, a rough neighborhood that shaped his persona. He worked as a dancer and boxer before finding his way to Hollywood. His street-smart demeanor made him perfect for gangster roles, and his coin-flipping trick in Scarface became one of the film's most iconic moments. But what many fans didn't know was that Raft's knowledge of the criminal world came from personal experience. Raft was rumored to have close ties to real-life mobsters, including members of the Chicago outfit. The FBI kept an eye on him for years, suspecting him of helping mob associates gain influence in casinos and nightclubs. Though Raft was never convicted of any crimes, his connections were undeniable. He was even said to have intervened on behalf of his criminal friends, using his influence in Hollywood to shield them from trouble. One story that stands out is how Raft allegedly helped mobsters gain control over Las Vegas casinos. He was often seen socializing with powerful figures from the underworld, further fueling speculation about his loyalty to them. These relationships didn't just tarnish his reputation, they made him a target for federal investigators. Despite his shady associations, Raft remained a beloved figure in Hollywood. His performance in Some Like It Hot even poked fun at his gangster image, showing he wasn't afraid to laugh at himself. Yet his ties to the mob were no joke and cast a long shadow over his career. Walt Disney. Walt Disney gave us Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, and some of the most loved movies in history. But while his creations brought smiles to millions, his personal legacy has been clouded by controversy. Born in 1901, Walt Disney grew up loving to draw. Even as a boy, he was sketching horses and copying cartoonists. His talent and determination led him to create an empire that today is worth billions. But Disney's story isn't just about magic, it's also about some very uncomfortable questions. Walt Disney's legacy includes controversies, with some accusing him of holding views or engaging in actions that were considered racist, sexist, or anti-Semitic by some critics. While there isn't solid proof that he personally hated or discriminated against certain groups, there are troubling examples in his work and behavior. For instance, early Disney cartoons sometimes showed negative racial stereotypes. The 1946 movie Song of the South is one of the most criticized, with many saying it glorified slavery. Disney himself once wrote that women couldn't do creative work, which shows the sexist attitudes of his time. Then there's the question of anti-Semitism. Some say Disney was too close to people who openly disliked Jewish individuals. He even gave a studio tour to Leni Riefenstahl, a German filmmaker who made propaganda films for Adolf Hitler. Disney also attended meetings of the German-American Bund, an organization with Nazi ties. While his defenders argue that Disney's actions were more about business or ignorance than hate, these connections have raised eyebrows for decades. Disney also clashed with labor unions. During the 1940s, many of his animators went on strike, demanding better pay and working conditions. Disney responded by labeling some of them as communists, which, during the Red Scare, could ruin lives. He later testified against them in front of a government committee, cementing his reputation as someone who sided with power over fairness. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was one of the biggest stars of Hollywood's golden age. Known as the King of Hollywood, he appeared in over 60 films, including classics like Gone with the Wind and It Happened One Night, for which he won an Oscar. Gable's charm and rugged looks made him a popular leading man, and fans adored his on-screen romances with Hollywood's brightest actresses. But behind the fame, there was a troubling side to Clark Gable's life that cast a shadow on his legacy. Gable was a powerful figure in Hollywood, with numerous reports about his relationships and alleged affairs. Despite being married 5 times, he frequently had affairs with co-stars. His behavior was no secret, and many described him as manipulative and controlling, especially towards women he worked with. He reportedly used his influence in the industry to get what he wanted, and many of his actions were overlooked in an era where powerful men rarely faced consequences. One of the darkest allegations against Gable surfaced decades after his death. In 2015, reports revealed that Loretta Young, a co-star from 1935, had accused Gable of sexually assaulting her during the filming of The Call of the Wild. Young became pregnant at the age of 23 and kept the child a secret, fearing the backlash it could cause. Decades later, she described the incident as date rape, shocking fans who had long seen Gable as the charming hero of Hollywood. Despite these accusations, Gable's public image remained mostly untarnished during his lifetime. He continued to star in major films and was celebrated for his contributions to the industry. However, his actions reflect a darker reality of early Hollywood, a place where powerful men often used their status to avoid accountability. Clark Gable died in 1960 at the age of 59, just days after finishing his final film, The Misfits. While he is remembered for his iconic roles and influence on cinema, the revelations about his personal life reveal a complicated and troubling legacy. Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart is often remembered as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. With his warm smile and everyman charm, he became famous for classics like It's a Wonderful Life and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Off-screen, Stewart seemed to embody the same wholesome qualities his characters did. But not many people know about his bizarre involvement in a smuggling operation that sounds straight out of a spy movie. In the 1950s, Stewart became part of an unusual mission. An explorer named Peter Byrne had been searching for evidence of the legendary Yeti, or abominable snowman in Nepal. Byrne managed to acquire what he claimed was a mummified Yeti hand from a monastery in the Himalayas. But getting it out of Nepal and into the United Kingdom for testing wasn't easy. That's where Jimmy Stewart came in. Stewart and his wife, Gloria, agreed to help smuggle the alleged Yeti hand into London. The plan was as creative as it was strange. The couple hid the mysterious artifact in Gloria's lingerie case to avoid suspicion. The operation went smoothly, and the hand made it to the Zoological Society of London for analysis. Tests later revealed the Yeti hand was nothing more than a human bone, likely part of an elaborate hoax. Even so, Stewart's role in the story remains one of the most unexpected chapters of his life. This wasn't the only surprising thing about Stewart. Before his Hollywood fame, he served in World War II as a pilot, flying dangerous missions over Europe. Despite his celebrity status, he turned down grand celebrations upon his return, insisting that many soldiers had done more important work. While Stewart's smuggling adventure might not fit his clean-cut image, it adds an unexpected twist to his legacy. And that sums our exploration of celebrities whose dark secrets Hollywood wishes you'd forget. What do you think about these revelations? Did any of them surprise you, or do you have your own theories? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.